He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
car. You know, roses would be...
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have.
You'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns. What's right? I want to have a man's coolant.
And he's like, oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light.
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West.
Internet. You know, is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
Very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke. Welcome to Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Not too much. Andrew, what's going on with you?
Had a few weeks off because I was on vacation.
Yeah, and I actually have been under the weather, so I haven't done any car stuff in those few weeks. So it's been quite a few weeks of between being busy at work and not feeling well as far as when I'm home. Not very productive for an automotive podcast.
Well, I did some cool stuff on vacation. So
That's good. That's good. That also supposed to be a really short episode.
Well, we talked about a while back that I was going to the Nurburgring to do some laps, and that's what I did. So that was like
awesome.
That was like the beginning of the vacation. We flew out on a Monday afternoon, and it's like an overnight flight. So we get there the next day. It was like 11 in the morning. My wife and I and my son, we flew into Frankfurt. So Frankfurt, this also kind of serve as if you want to go to the Nurburgring and you've never been before, I started to write this up for our website too, but I'll link this episode. So basically, Frankfurt is the closest airport. It's like an hour and a half drive from Frankfurt to the Nurburgring. So we did that. Rented a car from the Frankfurt airport. It was just like a A5. It's the sedan that's a hatchback Audi.
A3?
No. Like a sedan hatchback. Not. And I had this exact same confusion with the guy at the rental counter. I was like, is it a wagon? So like a 5-door? He's like, no, a hatch. It's like, okay. It's a fastback sedan, right?
Yeah, BMW calls it a Grand Coupe.
Yeah. But it's an A5. So just, I don't, whatever. It's a sedan.
I think the A5 in the States has a trunk though.
Okay.
Or no, there's a Sportback. A5 Sportback. That's what you had.
Yeah. All right. So it was a 4-liter, 6-cylinder, whatever. It drove nice. The only thing that's weird was the automatic. Okay, normal automatic, right? The Prindle, you push it all the way forward, you're in park, right?
Yeah.
Normal, totally normal. That's the way it should be. That's the way it's been for like 100 years. This one, you push it forward, it's reverse. And it has a park button instead.
Yeah,
So,
that's more common now than you would think.
How is that legal? It is so dangerous. I put the car in reverse so many times when I thought it was in park. Like I literally put it in reverse and went to get out of the car and I felt it jolt. And Steph feels like I put it in park because she hit the button on me.
Yeah, I don't think there's a law about that because there's different systems out there. I remember a few years ago, wasn't there a Hollywood actor who was killed by a Jeep for a very similar situation?
It was the Jeep or Durango with the dumb turn dial thing.
Yeah, which is still a thing. I know a lot of, I work at a Ford dealer right now, and a lot of Fords have a turn dial as well still.
But for a long time, the reason why the Prindle is in the order it's in is for safety. That was an issue for early on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a law or not.
Because it has to go, like, the way that's set up is you go from park, right? It's park, reverse, neutral, drive. So, like, neutral is in between for a reason.
Sure. But going back to the first Prius, that's when I first remember, or the first redesign of the Prius. That's when I remember them going to a park button. Those cars had a park button.
I suppose if you shut the car off, it goes automatically into park. But
I
like,
would think so.
it should. If you just turn the car off, it should just auto default to park. And I think that's
where's the park button? Oh, it's on the actual handle itself, right?
Yeah. So I think the intention is that you just pull into the spot, shut the car off, and it just goes into park. You don't think about it. But like if you leave the car running because you have people in the car and you want the AC to run, like I went inside of a rest stop while Stephanie sat in the car because Marco was sleeping. Yeah,
right.
That's like annoying. And like,
so your choice is you either let them die in a hot car or die in a car accident with nobody in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's like a dumb, annoying new car thing that I don't understand why they changed it.
Yeah, there's no standardization on shifter controls in modern cars. And I drive, I drive a lot of Fords being a Ford dealer, but we fix other cars too. And, I drive any number of different cars in a day. And yeah, I find myself having to pay attention to what I'm doing as far as putting a car in park.
But generally, for years and years and years, the most forward position is park.
Yep.
And even
until that Prius, I can't think of a car that had a park button.
And even the car I rented, I'll get to it, to drive the Nurburgring was a Golf GTI with the DSG all the way forward, park.
Yeah, same family as the Audi.
Yeah.
Totally different setup. Which also I noticed that, even in the Fords I was just talking about, like some have a rotary dial, some have a shifter, some have there's no consistency to any of it.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we rented that car. It's a decent car. Autobahn, sure. I don't know. The sections that go towards the Nurburgring, there's only a few unrestricted sections. It's like, okay, cool. You can do like, I think I had the car up to like 130. Like, all right. The only thing that's cool is like...
You only want to go so fast because you're driving an unfamiliar car with your family in it.
It was a brand new car. It's no big deal. But like, and it wasn't raining or anything. It's the only thing that's nice is that people really respect the drive right. And like,
just hang out in the left lane.
No, you cannot do that at all. You'll get pulled over for it, and people will be up your ass anyways if you're not going fast enough. Like, I literally didn't check the mirror for like a second, and then all of a sudden somebody was behind me with high beams. I was like, okay. I was getting ready to move over, but chill. And then they just had to, and then it was like, because it was kind of silly. It goes from like unrestricted to like restricted, like 130 kilometers an hour. Like right after that, you're like, all right, it's kind of dumb. But
and then the guy passed you, and he looked at you and went, "Stupid American," and kept driving.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how you would tell, but
I know how you could tell. You were driving slow in the left lane in a rental car.
I mean, I was still going over like pretty fast, just not fast enough.
Oh, now you sound like a typical left lane hog in America. Hey, I was over the speed limit. I can do whatever I want.
But anyway, that's like whatever. I don't know. I don't get the appeal, but well, I get the appeal because the discipline is good, but like it's not like the thing to see in Germany. So
sure.
Anyway,
it's an aside, but it's not the most important thing.
No. So anyway, we get to the Nurburgring, which is actually kind of in a pretty countryside area of Germany. And we were there like the afternoon. I was driving the next day. So the tourist drives for that day didn't start till like 5:30 in the evening, which is kind of crazy. And it was only like for like 2 hours. For whatever reason, the track was closed earlier in the day. I don't know why. There's different reasons they close it. Manufacturers have time. There's other stuff going on. So anyway, we first went to the main building. It's like it's part of the big complex near the F1 circuit. So there's the F1 circuit, that was built in the 80s, and then the north side, the North Loop, which is the Nurburgring that everybody thinks of. Which was built in 1927.
Which is what they call Nordschleife.
Yeah.
That's North Loop.
Yep. There was actually another, like a southern section that was supposed to be built, and then they just decided not to do that, which is kind of crazy. I actually meant to look up why, because like we went into the main building. They have Ringworks, which is there's like a go-kart. There's like a whole experience center in there, but they have a really cool museum. So like, well, let's go check out the museum. And they had some cool, like a ton of cool cars in display. Some interactive exhibits. They had one that was like the history of the Nurburgring, but it wasn't. Maybe it was in German. That's why I don't remember it. Like it definitely wasn't in English. So it's like kind of lost on me. I just had to look at the pictures, but it was like in this thing, and like it like spun you around on this rotating thing, and it had like projections of them. Like it had like fake trees, and like they were like cutting the trees down and then making the track. And then it went all the way up to the point of Niki Lauda's accident. And like that is when, after his accident, that was when Formula One stopped going to the Nurburgring, the North Loop, and that's why they had to build the better circuit, the safer circuit, the F1 circuit in the 80s. So that was really cool. There was like some weird, like, I guess there used to be like tourist buses in like the 60s through like the 70s.
That went around the Nürburgring?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like these like open top like glass buses. So they had like it was like a motion ride in one of those. It was like kind of goofy and weird, but it was like it was starting and I was walking by. I was like, I'll just walk in and do it. I'll just look.
Sure.
I'll just go through it. But it was like a weird like kids ride type thing. I don't know. But the cars in there were pretty interesting. There are a lot of older cars with history to them.
I saw a bunch of like 70s and 80s touring cars in the
Yep.
pictures you sent, which is like our main love.
Yeah, and it was cool because they had all the explainers for the exhibits were both in German and English, so I could read them and understand them. And it had like, there was one room that had the Nürburgring through like the decades with particular cars that were important to that decade. They had a safety car on display, all that cool stuff. It was, yeah, it's a very cool like museum. It's a good way to kill like an hour or so. And then they have like,
So it looks like the South Circuit was completed and it was used until 1971.
Sure. I think it was probably, I know it was like abandoned or something at some point.
Last official race was a Formula 3 race in October of 71. And in 75, until 75, it was still used for tourist rides.
Yeah.
Now, most of it still exists, but it's just part of the public road network out there, and it's not actually a circuit anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
So that's the thing. Here's the thing. So, like, right, you play the Nürburgring in video games. That's really how we were exposed to it, right? What you don't realize when you get there, I mean, you see it on paper, you're like, yes, it's 20 kilometers long, which is like 12 miles or so. It's hard to understand the actual scale of that because it goes through the countryside. Like there's entire towns that are inside of it.
In the middle of the Nürburgring?
Yes.
Okay. We think of the infield of a racetrack, you think of like the pits and where the 18-wheelers park. You don't think of like towns with full infrastructure.
Oh yeah, it's whole towns. Like we went to an Aldi that is you can stand in the parking lot of the Aldi and look and see the racetrack. And then from there, like, we ate at this little bistro that's like just off the edge of the track. And then when we were done, I walked up some stairs into a spectator area, and you could just see part of the track. It was like, okay, it's just the way it is.
That's cool, though.
It's very cool.
You're a car person living in that town. You can just, at any given time, just go watch race cars.
Yeah, and there's always like some cool cars driving around. Like, the car spotting is awesome. There's some older stuff. It's mostly a lot more modern stuff, as you would expect, but there's some cool old stuff kicking around.
You were sending a lot of pictures along during the time you were there, and there was definitely a lot of cool stuff like that Capri or some Opals and all kinds of cool stuff.
It's mostly German, mostly European stuff. Saw, a few Japanese things. Yeah, it's just like a super, super cool area. So, that was like the first like day we were there. And then my track day was supposed to start at 8 the next day, but I had to go down and go to the car rental place like an hour early, and they're only like 10 minutes from the track. It was RingFreaks is the name of the company. There's a bunch of companies you can rent cars from, but we had a couple of friends that have rented from these RingFreaks people. So I did the same. And it was I think it was a 18 or something, or 17 Golf GTI, so a Mark 7 with a DSG and full cage, completely stripped from the rear, the seats back. Panels were like were cut so they could fit around the cage, but then they put like carbon so that everything was covered. Like, really, really nicely built race car.
Yeah, it didn't look hacked at all, that's for sure.
No. And I went in there, the guy was super nice. Apparently I overpaid by accident. He's like, oh, I'll just figure it out at the end of the day. Whatever you don't use, we'll just credit you back. I was like, all right, that's fair. That worked out in the end anyways, because I'll get to it. I ended up hiring the instructor for another 5 laps, because I originally only hired him for the first 5 laps.
Sure.
So that's where I met my instructor, Thomas, who goes by Ring Instructor, or Ringstructor on Instagram. He's been a race car driver for a long time. He drove the 24 hours of Nurburgring a bunch of times. So I followed him over. First of all, it was very, very foggy this morning that we were doing it. So I followed him over towards where you get on and get off the track, which is that very famous car park that you probably see in YouTube videos. The Devil's Diner is over there.
With all the good cars in it.
Yeah. So we pulled in at like before the track was open, like 7:30. Nobody in there, so we just parked in that main lot that you'll see on YouTube. We were waiting there. He's like, I don't know. He's like, the track, he's like, it might not open at 8 because there's heavy fog. He's like, it's not foggy where we are, but there's parts of the track that are in fog, and they won't open the track for tourist day if there's fog because people will just crash.
Right.
So we ended up waiting like an hour. And we went into the Devil's Diner, and there was like, I don't know, like a €15 limit or something to use a debit card, and we were getting breakfast. I was like, oh, I'll just buy yours, Thomas. So, and then it was funny. He like brought me over to this table, and there was
meanwhile
like
the track's wide open. He's just getting free breakfast out of you.
No, it wasn't open. But,
I know.
No, he had his picture on the wall. I was like, oh, this is like his table. I'm like, oh, it's funny.
Right. That's funny.
It's like him with a race car, which is like an E46 GTR, I think. It was like the race car version of the E46.
Yeah, M3 CSL or GTR,
yeah, with the wide fenders. Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, I was like, oh, that's really cool. So we're kind of talking about track days, and I should go back to when I was picking up the car, and the guy Ray at RingFreak was kind of asking me about my experience level. I was like, oh, I've done track days in the U.S. and did a bunch of autocross, and he's like, you're not a Miata driver, are you? I was like, no. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
good. I was like, why not? He's like, he's like, don't tell anyone you do autocross either. I was like, okay. He's like, we also don't like Miata drivers. I was like, why?
Okay.
He's like, well, they go too hard and they crash a lot. I was like, okay. That's fair, I guess.
All right. That's fair. Well, again, the Miata driving autocross person is kind of a meme in itself, right? In the car community. Like,
Yeah.
so I get it. And no disrespect or hate from me. I obviously I autocross with you all the time. And I've also driven Miatas, so but I get where he's coming from.
But I was like, yeah, he's like, well, he's like, here's the thing. You do 20-minute sessions in the US. And I was like, yeah, probably the only track you've ever heard of is Lime Rock, because that's the only track I can think of that's a famous track.
Sure.
All the other local tracks here would not be world famous, right?
No, absolutely not.
And he's like, yeah, you do 20-minute sessions. I was like, yep. He's like, well, that's 2 laps. I was like,
Right.
yeah, you're right. I'm like, I didn't really think of it that way. That is, he's like, so you probably do like 2 at a time, and then, take your time. He's like, you might be done, because I was like, how many does 10 laps take? And he's like, you might be done by like lunchtime. He's like, depends on the traffic, depends on if the course is open. I'm like, all right, cool. So now we're back. We're eating breakfast. We're waiting. It's getting close to like, at a certain point, they said that they would open the track at 8:50. Like, all right, cool. So now we're outside. We're waiting. It's getting close. Talking to Thomas and just kind of going over stuff, and he's kind of explaining to me how it's going to go, and people are starting to like queue up. More cars are starting to come in, and I mean, just a ton of like 911s, like modern 911s, like GT3 RSs.
Sure. I bet they crash just as much as Miata drivers.
The guy Thomas was funny. He's like, he's like these 911 drivers. They're just like, he's like, they're constantly checking tire pressure. That's like all they do. He's like, it's their hobby, check tire pressure.
Yeah.
and he drives like a Clio. He's like,
okay.
And I bet he's like insanely fast in it.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, he's got a lot of experience at that one track as well. So
he's like, you don't need a lot of horsepower to go fast here. I'm like, all right, we're on the same page here.
Sure.
So it's cool because like it's like really, really well set up. There's boards that it's like an LED board, like an LED like screen, like a TV screen. And it's like track closed and it's like flashing red. And then all of a sudden there's like boop, like a sound and like an announcement, and then in German and then in English, and it's like the track is open for tourist drives. And you're like, okay, cool. And it's like turns green and like everybody like jumps in their cars and you like go around the car park and it's only one way. And boy, people are really, occasionally people would go the wrong way, and it's just like real bad shaming when they go the wrong way.
Breaking the rules in the parking lot already.
Yeah.
Not a good sign.
So you like go around the corner, there's 3 gates, and it's just an RFID card. I think it was actually like before it was like tolls, like you would put euros in.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a prepaid card. You swipe it, the gate opens, the 3 lanes kind of merge in. You've got one lane, it goes through like a little cone chicane, and he's like, yep, you're out of the cones, floor it, you're good, just go. And I'm actually uploading the very first lap ever on YouTube, just that lap, so I'll try to post a link to it with this episode. It's pretty wild, man. And like, I'm trying to get used to like how this guy is. Like, I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? So like this guy's an instructor. Like he doesn't know me.
No, not at all.
Like, man, that's pretty brave. You just get in the right seat with someone.
And I assume this isn't like a driver's ed car with a brake pedal on his side.
Oh no,
so,
nope,
yeah,
no. But he was like, he's like, just so you know, I am gonna like touch the wheel. I'm like, if I need to, I'm like, all right. And he would like reach out and like kind of push the wheel and correct me. And I was like, yeah, that's fine with it. He wasn't like grabbing the wheel. He was just kind of like gently like pushing it, or, you know, if I needed a little tighter to the apex or whatever. But first lap was a little scary, a little intimidating.
It's intimidating, I'm sure. Yeah. It's a big place.
You don't want to like, there's like ways to get on the track and like, I don't know. I had the instructor because I didn't want to like just bin it in the first lap because
yeah, exactly.
The thing is, if you damage the Armco, it is €1,000 per meter.
Yeah, and you're not going to damage a meter. You're going to damage a lot of meters because you're moving in a car.
Yeah, and you have to pay that to them like right away. Like they basically, the tow trucks they'll come out and they basically get the strap set up that they use on the cup cars now.
Yep.
With the like the beam and the straps, they just strap it through the wheels and then take the car away. And then I think they'll just sit with you until you pay.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's like, that's the other thing. There are places, I don't even know how to like describe the first lap. It's like, you know, I was going sort of fast. He was timing. You're not supposed to time, right? But people do.
Okay.
You're not supposed to film either, but people do because the RingFreak's car is all set up with an AIM Smarty Cam and telemetry. So that's how I got all the videos.
Sure.
But that's also for them too. If somebody cut in front of me and I smashed into them, it would show I wasn't like necessarily at fault.
Right.
Or if I drove off and curbed two wheels and it's like, okay, well, clearly you were wrong. So now you have to pay us for the damage of the car. Right.
Sure.
But anyway, we get going. So on a tourist day, your time is called bridge to gantry time. So you start at the bridge. I think it says Audi right now. Or maybe that's the gantry. Maybe they both do. It changes. So he started the timer. And we were going. I mean, I did all right. I thought he was like pretty happy at the end. He's like, oh, you're already under 10 minutes. He's like, that's good. He's like, most people that rent this car are like over 10 minutes their first time. And he's like, you want to go fast? So we're going to go faster. I'm like, all right. He's like, I can tell you can go faster. So we did like, the cool thing is too, so you can't, you know, they have that gap in the middle so you don't have people getting on with other people at speed. So they basically cut out the main straight. But what they've done is instead of having to get off and go through the parking lot again, if you want to go again, they just have a gate that's over to the left on the straightaway.
Like a bypass.
You can just like buzz in or whatever. And then you can just merge back in with the traffic that's coming from the other gates. Okay. Just go again. So we did 3 laps in a row, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. It's a half hour, so.
Yeah. Kept getting a little faster. A little smoother. There are places, there's one particular place with this car. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. It's like Plants Garden 1 is the corner. And I have a picture of it. I posted to Instagram. The car was light. I don't know what lap that picture's from, but there was definitely times where I'd come up because it's literally a jump into a right-hand corner.
The car's airborne.
Like even if you lift before, as he was telling me to do, it's like a kicker and it like kicks the car up and then just slams down. Like there was a couple times it hit pretty hard, so I must have been like really 4 wheels off,
Right.
and then you're in the brakes hard. And there was a couple of times where it was like, I think the one time I really scared him was I was really late on the brakes and the ABS kicked in, and I just had the car going straight because I didn't want to turn the wheel. And I could see he was a little nervous. He's like, "Oh, that was a little late." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
He's like, "Your entry speed is pretty high for some of these." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know."
Yeah, you had the instructor, man. Tell you what to do. Yeah.
And then I would like kind of understeer a little bit. And he's like, "You don't need to understeer." I'm like, "Okay, I'm just used to like G20 is like kind of slow, and sometimes it just understeers even when you're kind of going a little bit fast. It's just the way front wheel drive. I'm just used to front wheel drive cars understeering a little bit.
Sure.
Sometimes at the limit." He's like, no, you can.
When he says you don't understeer, like you don't really have a choice. The car's got to understeer or not.
No, because I don't know, the way he showed me, and maybe this will help me in my track days at here, but he's like, you don't have to turn it as tight. He's like, you can just let the car ride out to the edges. Like I was not using the whole track like I should have.
Okay.
But
so by turning too tight, you were causing it to plow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which maybe I'm doing that on my normal track days, so I'll have to check it out next time I do a track day. It's good to have someone who knows how to drive really well go with you occasionally.
Yeah, of course. It's just like anything. You think you're good at something until you meet somebody who's really good at it.
So the other thing that's interesting too is the carousel turns.
Okay, I was going to ask about those.
They're like really hard to get right in video games because the speed is like hard to judge. So that's the other thing. So we've done this track a lot in video games, right? It's
sure,
but what you definitely don't get from a video game is the elevation change and the G-forces, because it does not seem like there's that much of an elevation change when you're playing the video game. There is a ton of elevation change on this track. Not as much as Palmer, but like a good amount. And so back to the carousel, when you're going into it, like he was showing me the line, you're like, the first one, you're like way out to the outside, hard on the brakes, then you cut over, and there's a point where you entry, and then you just hold the speed. And it's interesting because, and I've got pictures of it, you can see the car is basically full compression. And it's like almost porpoising across because it's like different sections of concrete. And then you like kind of jump out of it at the end and you just keep going. But he's like, whatever you do, he's like, stay in it. He's like, and hold the speed. He's like, don't go out of it once you're in it, because it's like a 3 meter drop.
Jesus.
If you go over the lip, it's like a skateboard bowl.
Sure. That's like 9 feet.
Yeah. He's
That's
like,
crazy.
It's not good. He's like, don't do it. I only had to take the exit around it once because we were about to get freight trained by like 3 911s, and they were just right at my butt. He was funny about that too. He's like next time, he's like, we just go in front of them. He's like, they just wait. They just get their next lap. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And that was the other thing. I was asking him, I'm like, do you do like point buys? He's like, no, we don't do any of that. We don't do that here.
So how do they pass? Just whenever they hit safe?
Yeah. And you watch your mirrors, and somebody might high beam you, and you just pull to the right. You don't even let off. I was like, do you let off? He's like, no. He's like, just foot flat. He's like, the 911 comes up behind you. He's like, they have 500 horsepower or whatever they have. They have so much power. You just make them work for it. It's like, okay.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, so overtaking is pretty interesting. So I wasn't really... It was really like 911s would overtake me, modern M cars. But other stuff, like more pedestrian, we were overtaking them, which was pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, a GTI, like a Mark, was that a Mark 7
Mark
GTI?
7.
It's not a slow car.
No. But like, there's also bikes, motorcycles.
True.
like I'd overtake a motorcycle. And I definitely, without the added confidence of having someone who knows what they're doing, I would have been frightened to overtake people. But he's like, no, he's like, they'll stick to the right. He's like, you just go. He's like, those are the rules. That's what he does. And sure enough, when there's enough space, he's like, just go. He's like, they're not going to let off. You just keep going. Like, all right. I mean, you could get past mid corner. It's kind of crazy, but all passing is done on the left. Because there are people watching, and if you pass someone on the right, you will get booted. So,
Which is good.
yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of rule you need to have to make a successful track event. Like, especially something that happens, like track events happen every single day, so they definitely have to have rules they follow, or else it would just be chaos.
Well, that's the thing. It's not even like, it's just a tourist day. So like, you might come across a van or SUV or something, or someone in a convertible that's just like cruising along, and they'll just stick to the right. Or so like the first 3 laps we did, they were pretty open. And then it got a little bit busier towards lunchtime. There was some caution sectors where people went off. That's interesting. So they'll put flaggers out. So as soon as you see the flag, you slow down, throw your hazards on, and you try to go like, I think it's supposed to be around like 50 kilometers an hour. You go pretty slow because there'll be like people, tow trucks, whatever. And then when you get beyond that, then it's just open again. You can just go. But like,
so it's like just like at the 24-hour Le Mans, you watch, they have like the yellow sectors.
Yes, but did you watch
track.
Any of the Nurburgring 24 hours?
I did not, no.
So what was blowing people's minds is that some people didn't realize that. So like during Le Mans 24 hour, they do not do this, but during the Nurburgring 24 hour, because the track is so big, and well, I mean, Circuit de la Sarthe, right, is like 8.5 miles. It's a pretty big track. Nurburgring, they combine with the Formula One track for the 24 hours, so it's huge. It would be ridiculous to try to like do pace car, right? You couldn't do it. So they just have like yellow sectors. But during the actual race, they'll have a tow truck in the right with a car on it exiting the track that wrecked, and cars passing at speed. So the same thing happens during the tourist day. Like the car, like we came up on a couple like service vehicles. He's like, no, you just overtake them. They'll stick to the right. You just overtake it. Like cars, there's like a car with a truck with a tow truck with a car in the back. He's like, no, they'll just stick to the right. It's not a slow zone. Just go by them. I'm like, what?
That's hard to get used to, I bet.
Yeah.
I mean, even on the interstate here, we slow down when there's yellow flashing lights in the tow truck.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's cool, though. I mean, I'm obviously, maybe jealous isn't the right word, but definitely envious that you got to go. I definitely would love to someday make that trip myself, because it sounds like a really fun time.
It's definitely a once in a lifetime thing. I figured if I'd only do it once, if I only get a chance to do it once, I'll do 10 laps. I did the first 5, and then I was like, it was around lunchtime. I was like, all right, I need some time to like relax. Plus, the car every 5 laps said to fill it, so it had a quarter of a tank after 5 laps.
Okay,
which is atrocious mileage, but whatever.
Well, you're foot to the floor the whole time, so
yeah.
Makes
and
sense.
There's a gas station right there that you like go over and fill it up, and then that gas station is cool too because it also has a car park with a bunch of people just hanging out in it with cool cars. It's just basically like a bunch of cars and coffees all around the entire area every day, all day when there's tourist days.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good spot.
And the weather,
does that gas station have a huge markup because at Nurburgring?
Honestly, I think it was like I didn't really look too hard. I think it was maybe $1.80 a liter. Well, a
How many
euro.
liters in a gallon?
4.
That's not too bad then.
Yeah, for like 98 RON, whatever they call it there. I feel like
That's
I filled
not
the
much more
car
than fuel here.
and it was like 50 or 60 euro,
Okay.
which makes sense because if I fill my Golf with premium here, it's like 40 to 50 bucks.
Well, 50 euros is like $55 right now, right? Because it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's like 55, 60. So it's pretty close. Like it didn't strike me as very expensive.
No, I expected a lot more.
Like I could look. Maybe it was 70 or it wasn't, because when we were in Portugal in 2018, I filled up that Renault Clio and that was €100.
Sure.
That seemed excessive, but this was not over 100. I kind of wasn't paying attention because I kind of didn't care. It's like,
Yeah, I
I don't know
mean, yeah. What are you gonna do? Not fill it up at that point?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter, I guess. Again, it's a once in a lifetime thing.
Excuse me.
You pay whatever you need to pay to do it.
Yeah. So it didn't really matter to me. And then what it reminded me of was when we went to the Tail of the Dragon.
Okay.
Like same kind of vibe, right? There's just like people are around, cool cars, bikes, people just hanging around.
Enthusiasts doing enthusiast things.
That's like the closest thing I can equate it to. But like the Tail of the Dragon is an actual public road.
Right. Yeah, it's still rules.
Yeah, like that's the only difference where once you get on the track, there's definitely no police. Like, and there's no restrictions on speed unless there's a yellow flag out.
Sure. The rules are basically get out of the way, don't cause an accident, be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool place and there's a lot of good car spotting. You'll see, there's a lot of manufacturer facilities there. I saw some camoed up Range Rover that they were probably doing. It looked like a high performance one because it was lower and had like sort of like body kit stuff. It was hard to tell with all the camo on it.
Sure.
Hyundai's got their new has an N center there now, which is interesting.
Which makes sense because they're trying to like go hard on that performance thing, and
yeah,
they've got their own. Their main engineer came from M, so
yeah, they've got their own ring taxi. So like
when
you think of the original, when you think of the original ring taxi, it was like just BMWs, but now
it's always
Hyundai
M5.
has their own. Yeah. And there's also 911 one that you could like rent. I ended up putting.
There's lots of different ways to enjoy the Nurburgring, even if you're not going to drive.
Yeah, I put Stephanie in the Hyundai one because I just wanted her to like experience the track because she was with Marco all day.
Sure.
They tried to go to the Harbo factory, and then
like gummy bears.
Yeah, because only like an hour away, and then didn't realize that there was some like holiday, and it was closed.
Oh no!
So,
like a government holiday.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so I got lunchtime. I filled the car with gas, and then I was sitting in the parking lot. I was like, I need to just like chill for like 20-30 minutes here, just to like the adrenaline dump. And I'm like sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna hire Thomas for another 5 laps. I was like, I really don't like 5 was not enough for me to be confident. Just go out there and do it fast, or like to have enough fun. Like it wasn't, since I had overpaid. Apparently, I was like, well, I think it was only like €200 to have him for 5 laps.
Okay.
I was like, I'll just get him for another 5 laps. And I would definitely recommend it for somebody doing it for the first time to hire an instructor. I feel like I got more out of it. Because
I think you would, because I feel like if you did it by yourself, not only do you not have somebody else in the car to like tell you what you're doing right or wrong, you have really no way to know where you even need to improve.
or to like know what to do, what not to do. Like there were places where I definitely was lifting on the first like lap or so, and he's like, no, it's just flat. He's like, flat, flat, flat. Like just go. I'm like, okay. And then towards like the end of it, like the last couple laps when we had open track, I mean, we were cooking. It was like, wow. I never had that feeling on any track day. Maybe the last time I was at Lime Rock where I got into a groove because I'm used to Lime Rock where you're linking stuff and you get that sort of like tunnel vision where you're actually going really quick. But you know, I'm watching some of the videos. I hit 200 kilometers, which is like 125 miles an hour, which I've only ever hit like 110. You might hit 110 on the straights here on the tracks.
Sure.
For like
at 200 Ks is fast.
For like 10 seconds, right? Because the laps here for tracks are like 2 minutes. Here, you're doing, when you hit the line right, you're doing 125 miles an hour for like a kilometer. That's
crazy.
Yeah.
Also why you use 3/4 of a tank of gas in 5 laps.
Yeah. that was what was like worth it to me, was the like somebody pushing you to actually get like good speed. I mean, we ended up doing, it wasn't my last lap, but one of the later ones, I had like my best bridge to gantry time was like a 9:06. So I literally improved by like a minute or 50
That's
seconds.
A significant amount of time. That's a tenth better.
And
not a tenth of a second, like 1/10 better.
He was like, "Oh, you're pretty fast." I was like, "Well, you probably said it to everyone." He's like, "No." He's like, "No, that's decently fast in this car." He's like, I have slow people, and it's like I tell them they should get a different hobby. Like,
this isn't for you. I feel like that'd be my experience. They'd be like, get a different hobby.
I think, I mean, you know how to go fast. I mean, with somebody that's like telling you, give you the confidence to go fast.
Sure.
And we talked about it at the end, like, he's like, you know, that was good. He's like, those were good laps. Those were like safe laps. Like, you were quick, but that was like within the safe margin. Like, you could go faster, but you might be like in the wall potentially.
Outside of safe.
Yeah. I was like, no, that felt really good. I had a good day. I didn't throw the car on the wall. I didn't break the car. So it didn't cost me any extra money that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Or embarrassment. Yeah. No, it was definitely worth it. To have them. I didn't notice, you know, I get like their other cars they have are BMWs and they've got full manuals. Like I get the romanticism of driving a manual, like, cause that's my thing. But like I was talking to the instructor and I was like, when I'm on a track day, like I'm usually in third and fourth. That's it. Like I don't really shift that much. It's either the car's either in third or sometimes I go to fourth.
Sure.
And then on the straight, and then maybe I go back to third. Like it's not, he's like, yeah, you don't really need, he's like, the DSG is fine. He's like, then it doesn't, you can't over rev the engine.
Well, on top of it, the 5-speed or 6-speed or whatever speed on a public road is more fun because you're not just 10/10 all the time. You need something else to engage you. Whereas on a racetrack, you know, that's the best case scenario for a DSG car because you're not concentrating on shifting all the time and you're not going from a dead stop. You just, like you said, you're in third or fourth or fifth and sixth, and that's really it. So it doesn't actually add a lot to be actually manually shifting the car.
I've never driven one with a DSG. Well, that was the other reason why I picked the Mark 7 was because I drive a Mark 7, so I was used to like where everything was.
A little familiarity, yeah.
I've never driven with the DSG. I don't know if this one was sloppy and like hurt from being driven hard because it kind of felt a little weird, but I don't know. Otherwise, the car seemed like pretty great.
Yeah, again, the DSG it's fine as a transmission. I wouldn't want one myself.
No, I don't want one every day, but
yeah. But if I was only doing track days with it, probably fine.
Yeah,
probably just fine.
I know, like IE makes like tunes for them for the DSG that you have to like if I had a DSG and the stage 1 tune I did, I would also have to do the DSG tune for it.
Sure, to keep up with it.
But I don't know. It was a really cool experience. I really recommend it for anyone that if you can afford it. It wasn't cheap. It was like around probably like 2,200 US. Okay.
But again, as a once in a lifetime kind of experience goes, that's...
Yeah, I mean, you could, if we're talking about trading like physical things for experiences,
right.
It's a pretty good one. It's not like I could bring a car to Nurburgring. I don't live on the same continent, so
sure.
If you could bring your own car, it certainly would be a lot cheaper. You cannot use a rental car in Germany on the Nurburgring.
Like a normal rental car, you mean?
Yeah, like in fact, there was like a big sticker on the windshield of my Audi that we rented that said like no racing.
Okay.
And they were like basically even with like like that Audi has like GPS in it. Like if you could theoretically take it on a tourist day. Like there's nothing to stop you. You can go on with any car. There's no safety inspection. There's no tech inspection. You can go on with any car. You can go on. You don't have to wear helmets. Nothing. You can just go on and just drive a car with like 5 people in it. If I wanted to, I could have had Marco in the back seat. Like totally fine. Would I have? Probably
seems
not.
So strange. Yeah, seems so strange.
I was also asking about. I was like, oh, I wear like a Hans during my track days, and Tom was like, no, we don't wear. He's like, you can't wear them during a tourist day. He's like, you wear them during a track day if we were doing a track day here. He's like, you can't wear them during a tourist day because you can't. He's like, they're worried about that you can't check your mirrors enough because it does restrict your movement a little bit.
Sure.
I'm like, all right, that's interesting. I think the only thing I would do differently now is if I had a chance at it again, is that I would do a actual track day and not a tourist day. Just because the tourist day was a little chaotic with the bikes. Like that's like I was talking to the guy that was running the RingFreaks when I got back. I was like, yeah, the bikes thing is a little crazy. He's like, yeah, I don't. He's like, the bikes is wild. He's like, if it were up to me, I would not let the bikes on. He's like, because it's not like you had the bikes like in the 1970s. Like modern bikes are so fast. He's like, they don't really belong on the same track at the same time as cars.
But it's funny, they don't turn much faster though, or if not, if slower than anything, because they're not as they don't have as much contact patch. It's do thin little strips.
And literally the last session we went out, we're almost towards the end. We got a caution zone just because the bike was down.
Sure.
And you could see it down in the weeds, and the guy was up, but he was holding the shoulder. You got to wear full leathers, but you could tell he probably broke his collarbone.
Yeah, more than likely. That's a pretty common motorcycle injury.
And you're like, oh man, that's. And then the track was closed for like an hour after that because they had to clean it up.
Right.
So that's the other risk of a tourist day is that somebody wrecks and it's just closed for an hour or 2 hours.
Is there a big cost difference between a track day and a touring day?
I don't know what a track day would have cost because it was interesting because I rented the car for 10 laps, but he's like, yeah, the RFID card is like unlimited. They must pay like per year for it or something. It's kind of like a ski pass. The ski passes are like that now. They're RFID cards.
Okay, meaning the car could go out whenever you wanted, but you only paid for it for 10 laps.
I only paid for 10 laps. He's like, if you do more laps, he's like, I'll just charge you what the extra lap rate is.
Okay.
Like I could have done more, but at the end of 10, I was like, I'm pretty tired.
Right.
And I'm losing concentration. It was hot because you had to run with the windows up because it was just too loud to hear with the windows down.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was just like, you know what? I've had a good day. I haven't wrecked the car. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon. Like, let's just call it a quit, right? Like,
let's not do that one more lap push.
Yeah, I'm ahead right now. Let's just keep it that way.
Let's end the day ahead.
Because the only way you lose it is you put it in the wall.
Yeah, which you don't want to do.
And honestly,
experiences and
that's,
cost.
120-ish kilometers. Like, that's a lot.
Of driving, you mean? Like distance-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
That's 70 miles?
Yeah.
So,
And it's every 2 laps would be a session at a normal track day.
right. So you got a lot out of it, honestly.
Yeah, a ton of seat time.
Cool.
And the crazy thing, something happens when you're driving it. The laps do not feel like they are about 10 minutes. It's weird.
Goes by faster?
It feels like it goes by faster. Because your concentration level, all you're thinking about is like, it's like corner. You're not thinking about anything else. And then it feels like it's like a 2-minute lap, but it's really like 9.5.
Well, as someone who still hasn't done a track day, you've done the ultimate track days, and now I'm a little more jealous.
I'm a little worried.
Jealous. I'm envious, but now I'm jealous.
That my next track day won't feel as good, but
I'm sure it will, because you'll be able to apply things you learned in that car, plus you're back in your own car, doing things at your own pace. I think it'll still be good.
yeah.
I think it'll still be good.
So yeah, it was very, very cool. There's a lot of cool stuff in that area. There's a lot of history. There's
Did you go to castles and stuff while you were there?
No, actually.
Oh,
I meant like history around the track. No, it was tricky with a 3-year-old. We can only do so much, but
sure.
there is like older stuff that we probably should have. And I don't know. In hindsight, maybe we could have stayed a couple extra days in that area. Because it was pretty. We went to Pliston House, which is Sabine Smith's family's restaurant. We had dinner there. And then we left the next day and went back to Frankfurt and went on the rest of our vacation, which we was very anti-car. Actually, we spent it on trains and subways and we're in Belgium. We rented a Fiat 500 for one day to go to Bruges.
Okay.
That was a manual. That was funny. It was like a hybrid. I didn't know it was a hybrid. Like, we drove there and most of the way back, and it didn't use any fuel. I was like, what is going on? I was like, why is this not using fuel? And then finally, we're 20 kilometers from getting back, and it went down 2 blips of fuel.
So how does the hybrid work if it's a manual? Was it just on electric or was it on gas?
I don't know. It didn't feel like... it had start stop. I think because I was just cruising the highway. Maybe it was using electric. I don't know. I had the little gate. I changed the display so I could see it. And under coasting, it would regen. And then just driving, I'm not matting it because it wasn't very fast anyways. You could see it come out of the battery. So maybe it was mostly on electric and barely using any fuel. When I'm
it's interesting because I think the only hybrid manual we got here was a CRZ, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know they did a 500 hybrid.
I didn't realize it was a hybrid until we got to the place and we were in the parking garage and I saw the back of it.
Yeah.
And it was funny, we're parking it and this group of older people were walking by. They're oh, it's a pretty, but they were speaking French or something, oh, it's a pretty car. They're signaling to me. I'm yeah, it's a rental. I don't know. It's not mine.
Yeah. And it's a Fiat 500. It's nothing special at all. Unless it is special there. I don't think it would be. Seems like a pretty
there was
normal
2 other ones
car.
parked in the parking garage. It was weird.
Yeah.
But
Strange.
anyway, yeah, and then it was weird because it's gas, and we go to the gas station that's closest to the airport, and I go to fill it, and the station is doesn't have any gas. The gas stations are unmanned. You just swipe the card and pump. which is pretty convenient. But like,
Which is like here.
oh, I mean like it doesn't even have like the displays that we have here. Like it's just like a card reader and like a pump. And like there's not even like a booth inside, like completely unmanned. Like just no
interaction
person.
at all. I guess you don't need a person really for most fuel transactions. So
no, you don't. But there was no gas. I was like, all right. I guess I'm just returning this and paying the fee because I don't know where else to get gas and I don't feel like driving around.
Yeah, it's annoying.
But I was like, how bad can 2 blips of Fiat 500 be? What is that, a gallon? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Gallon?
Excuse me, I think you mean liter.
Yeah, what was it like? Yeah, it might be a liter. I was like, I don't know. And then it was funny. Stephanie was looking at it afterwards. She's like, I don't think they even charge us for it either. We told them too. And he's like, I think they just didn't care. I was like, all right, fair enough.
So not much fuel at all. They just don't care at all.
Yeah. Whatever.
Awesome.
But,
I know. Again, you sent some neat pictures during the whole week you were there. I saw some cool car spotting, maybe in Amsterdam and some other places. And
I don't even know what I
saw. All not car stuff.
Amsterdam, was that like a Buick?
I know it's Caprice.
It was a Caprice.
Yeah.
It was such a random car to see it. I was like, whoa, what is like?
Yeah, you sent a Caprice and you sent the Citroën station wagon.
So like that, I totally expected to see.
Sure.
And in fact, I saw another one. We were on a boat tour, but I didn't have a chance to take a picture. It was like we're in the canal. I was looking up at it. I just didn't like get it quick enough. But like an 85 Caprice is not something I expected to see driving around the streets there.
No, you wouldn't think so. That's definitely somebody who is into that on purpose.
Because it's like all bicycles with like a few cars.
That takes effort. I feel like, again, I've never been, obviously, but knowing that you've been and seeing pictures you've sent, and our friend Ron has been a couple times, and in fact, he has cars that he goes and visits every time he's there to make sure they still exist. He calls them his friends. He goes and visit my friends, and they're all Citroens and Saabs. It seems to me, though, that like in a place like Amsterdam, like if you own a car, it's because you want to own a car, so you might have something more interesting. Like you don't need to own a car there. So if you want to own a car, you have a more interesting car. So that seems to be what I see from others' trips there. But I'd love to go because of that. I'd love to see just those random old cars just city parked. Kind of neat.
I would definitely go to Amsterdam again. That was a nice city.
Yeah, I've heard
even this being a car focused podcast it's just a nice city to visit.
Sure. Yeah, it's on my list someday. We always talk about going to Europe, but then we're like, there's so many things we want to see in the United States too that let's do all the US stuff first and then go to Europe afterwards. But who knows? Just different ways of traveling for different people, I guess. But anyway, it's awesome that you went. It's awesome that you had a good time. I'm significantly envious that you went on the Nurburgring.
Yeah. Yeah, we did some high-speed trains. That's interesting too.
How high speed is high speed?
Certain sections, 180 miles an hour.
Okay, that's fast.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah. It's a cool way to travel. It's like, because what happens is sometimes we go on vacation and we have to do like transit driving. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, I'm on vacation. I want to drive. Like, it's annoying to me. I commute to work every day. I don't want to drive 3 hours of my vacation.
Whereas most of my vacations are centered around driving.
It depends. I don't like going to a country and just driving to drive somewhere. It's like, that's annoying. I'd rather take a train where I could actually look outside and like relax and hang out.
I get you. I don't know. I don't like trains.
What's wrong with trains?
I don't know. I just don't like trains. I don't like anything I'm not in control of. I don't like passengering cars. Just give me a car. I don't like airplanes.
Oh, a train is way better than an airplane.
I just don't like any of it.
Because at least a train, you're on the ground.
Yeah, 180 miles an hour in a tube isn't going to get you much better than being on an airplane if something goes wrong. I don't know. I just I have a control issue, and I just enjoy.
I mean, statistically, it's way more dangerous to be in a car.
No, listen, I know all the numbers. I know I'm wrong. It's just it's a mental thing. So,
Like if I get nervous about getting on a plane, then I have to remind myself that I do track days and it's way more dangerous. So it doesn't matter.
but you're in control of the track day. You're in control of the car. That's my issue.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I don't like. I don't know. I just don't like it. I'd much rather be in a car, and I enjoy driving in new places. You know, I haven't been to Europe, but when I take a road trip, I enjoy driving around a new place and learning a new place. And I don't know.
I mean, it was a little weird because we were driving around. We were trying to like get to the ocean, so we like drove from Bruges like an hour to the city, but apparently like everything's like you can't just drive up to like I was expecting like someplace like Revere Beach. You just drive like that,
Sure,
but it was not like that. It was like
it's all
a
private.
bunch of buildings and then a boardwalk. So
Okay.
we're like trying to figure out how to like get close, and then all of a sudden you're driving. And you're like, I don't think I saw signs that said no cars, but this feels like there shouldn't be cars here. And I feel like I'm driving in a pedestrian like mall, in this
Right.
little Fiat 500, and I don't like this right now. So let's get out of here. So like that's a little nerve wracking.
Well, you didn't get arrested, so you're fine.
No,
We'll just wait for your ticket to come in the mail. The picture of your car driving down a boardwalk.
yeah, there were some speed cameras a couple places. I'm like, I'm not speeding, so I don't think I should worry about it. But we'll see what happens.
Well, can they enforce it internationally anyway?
Well, we'll go through the rental car company.
Right, but is there any kind of way to enforce it on you? Like, if you got a speeding ticket in Europe, do you have to pay it?
I have no idea.
Right. There's no reciprocity between Massachusetts and Brussels, so I think you're okay.
But
unless you go back to Brussels, I guess would be
Yeah.
a problem. Welcome to Brussels. You're under arrest for something you did 10 years ago. Oops. Anyway, sounds like an epic trip, and I'd love to get out there myself some year, but in the meantime, I will live vicariously through you.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be fun to go with like people.
Like a car-specific trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which it seemed like that was what the group that was there at the same time I was renting the other cars. Like it was just a group of like they're like English or Irish guys. Maybe it's like a bachelor party or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something you can do if you live in that area, I guess. Be no different than going go-karting for us here.
Yeah, a lot of English, a lot of French, a lot of locals. They just just show up and drive. And then the other cool thing is what I do maybe next time too is Spa is not very far. It's just over in Belgium. It's maybe like an hour, 3 hours away.
Okay.
Something like that. So some of the companies that rent cars for Nurburgring will also rent ones to go to Spa.
Oh, that's cool.
You can do tourist days at Spa too. Yeah.
I didn't know that was an option. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very neat. Sweet.
Yeah, I got nothing else. That was pretty much it.
No, I don't have anything else. Like I said, I've been homesick pretty much. I mean, I've been like just working and sick and nothing, and haven't touched cars. So literally haven't touched anything. Just tried to work. That's pretty much it. I went to 4 till 4 yesterday, Saturday, one of those days. But that's as far as car stuff goes. That's been it. So nothing to report on here. I gotta get some stuff going and get my mental headspace better.
All right, cool. Oh, I put the Q45 on Obscure Cars for Sale group on Facebook.
I saw that neat little write-up, kind of explaining what happened last time as well, which is good. In case there's any questions.
Yeah, hopefully somebody buys it from me because
I hope so.
You've shared with me a couple of decent 142s that are up for sale, and I'm like,
Now is the time. It's time for Andrew to get a chrome bumper car.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you fix the wax on the G20?
I did just the trunk lid. So today, because I had the day off, I used the chemical guys stuff to strip anything off of the car
Okay.
with the foam cannon, which seemed to work pretty well. And I let the paint cool off, so it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, like in the shade, like it was cool to touch, like cold. I tried the C4 stuff. I think it's too aggressive for the car. Like the car is not. Oh, I clay barred the car too. Like the paint is not that rough, so maybe it's too aggressive. Because as soon as the stuff, even doing a small section, as soon as that stuff dries, like if you're not rubbing it off while it's still wet with the microfiber after buffing
Sure.
it's not coming off. It's really hard to get off. Which is weird because I had the exact like the opposite experience doing the silver paint on the Q.
Yeah, because I've used that same stuff a bunch and never had an issue with it.
It's very difficult to get off. So then I was like, well, I've got the P4, which is just the polishing compound versus the cutting compound. So I was like, let me try that. So I did sections in the trunk lid and then eventually the whole trunk lid. That stuff was coming off a lot easier after buffing, which is the microfiber.
And it looks good.
Yeah. I got it pretty good, and then it would still leave a couple streaks after you're done wiping it off with the microfiber. And then when I did a coat of butter wax over it, it looks really good. So I guess I'll do that on the whole car.
Yeah, I've used that same product on a whole entire car and didn't have the same issues. So just confused.
I used it on the Q and didn't have any issues, so I don't understand.
Yeah. But I used it on a darker colored car. Like, I mean, the 944 is not, dark green like that car, but it's not silver or white either. It is not all single stage.
Oh.
The half the car has been repainted with a clear coat. So
I was getting cloudy spots where it wasn't cutting.
So weird. Yeah, I don't know. Not being there, it's hard to tell. So I don't know. But it just seems strange to me. But obviously, it's not like you don't know what you're doing. So it's weird.
Yeah, I ran out of time and I just was like, I'll just do the rest of the car maybe next weekend or something.
Sure. It's a small enough car.
Yeah, once you're going the mechanical, it goes pretty quick, and then throwing a coat of wax on it is like nothing, like because it goes on
using the
and comes
rotary
off.
thing, it's so fast.
But,
takes like a third the time that it used to. I love it so
but
much.
I got it all stripped down, like there should be nothing on it, and even the clay bar was barely picking up any material off of it. Like it was pretty clean coming off the clay. So I don't know.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing it when it's done.
All right, cool. So, calling that an episode. You can follow me, Race and Anger, on Instagram. There are a bunch of people that are photographing tourist days while you're there at the ring. There's one website. It's like racetracker.de that like you can look. It's like really, really cool. You can look up like buy your car, the time. You can look per corner. Like people clearly put a lot of work on this, like every day, like dumping photos from the day. Like
Sure,
I don't know how people have the time to like do all the editing. Like it's crazy.
Just also like Molly Tail the Dragon, as photographers, perched up different places.
Yeah, but like I haven't looked at one of their websites in a long time, but this is even better than their websites were 10 years ago.
Right.
The pictures are like 10 to like 15 euros a piece, and I bought quite a few. I wasn't really counting on doing that, but I was like, you know what? Once in a lifetime, YOLO.
Absolutely. Yep. Why not?
So I have like 60 photos of myself. So I posted some of those already to my Instagram. That's where I was going with the story. So if you go to my Instagram, there's pictures of me driving the RingFreak's GTI. And I've tried to tag where I can. The website tells me who the photographers are. So I've looked basically all of them up on Instagram and followed them.
Sure.
And when I post one of their pictures, I tag them in it. because some of the, like, quite a few of them are like really, really good. Like, they know where to stand. Like, there's one that's like the car, the straightaway, and then the castle in the background.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
It's cool. Yeah, it's super, super cool. So yeah, you can follow me there. I'm on Twitter, Race and Anger. We've got Auto Off Topic podcasts on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Instagram. And Brad, where you can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at TSISS350. Oh, and
All right.
Scale Autocast on Instagram as well. If you didn't mention that.
No, I didn't.
So that's where they can find me most of the time. And the places Andrew said, Auto Off Topic as well.
Yeah, and we didn't plug the Discord yet, so come join the Discord. We got a lot of cool stuff going on in there. Cool discussions. People are working on a lot of cool projects, sharing the stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, Discord is fun. It's a good community. Really kind of brings together a lot of like-minded people in the car world, so enjoy it.
All right. So, as always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.